A very good evening, one and all. And we would really like to thank Stepin Forum to give us this opportunity to present our white paper and thoughts on the topic self-healing automation. So we are calling self-healing automation as therapy for the failing automation scripts. And automation scripts may fail due to any reason, and one of the reason could be object flakiness, which occurs when the product evolves or there are some changes in the application. So for some of you who haven't heard the term flakiness, but if you are from the automation world, you have 100% experienced the pain of flakiness. A flaky test is one that has non-deterministic outcome. It can pass sometimes and other time it fails, even for the same code and for the same test. So that was about flakiness. Let us quickly have our introduction. So paper is a combined thought being put by my colleague Abhijit Apte and me, Preeti Vashne. So may I call upon Abhijit to tell his professional experience quickly. Abhijit.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Abhijit Apte. I'm working with Pfizer in the capacity of Manager Quality Assurance Engineering. Been with the software testing world for more than 16 years and have hands-on experience on open source as well as licensed automation toolsets. Worked on the different testing services like shift left, automation evaluation and implementation so far. So, thank you. Over to you, Preeti.
Yeah, thanks, Abhijit. So I am Preeti Vashne and I carry a total experience of 16 years in automation testing. I'm working as a manager quality assurance, part of Testing Center of Excellence in Pfizer India Private Limited. I have extensive working experience on multitude of automation tools like UFT, Tosca, Cypress, Visual Studio, etc. So that was pretty much about us. Let us quickly have a look at the agenda for the day. So in the year of 16 years of experience, I have seen various myths about automation. In fact, I would like to call it as over expectations from the automation. And these myths somewhere worry me. And some of the myths are people expect that they are going to automate 100% of their testing. Automation is going to steal testers' job. Automation will replace manual testing. And one more. I mean, automation, people generally say automation isn't effective as my script keeps on failing and I have to spend ample amount of time to update my scripts. So, I mean, these are really myths, and we are going to discuss the last one in our session today. Why does automation fails? What is the root cause of automation failures? And what should I do when my application changes? Should I keep on putting my precious time in correcting and updating these scripts? Can my tool earn that capability to learn and update itself when product evolves? So we are going to discuss all these pointers in the coming up slides. Yeah. So in this slide, I'm going to talk about the automation challenges and the proposed solution. So we'll start with the positive one, the advantage of automation. Okay. So starting with the benefits of automation, test automation, as you're all aware of, is an essential subset of the testing, software testing basically. So by using automation testing, we can expedite the process of software validation and increase the test coverage as well. So something that has good has the other side as well. Okay. So automation has all goods, but it has certain challenges as well. So let's have a quick look at the various challenges that are associated with automation. And they really need to be catered if we want to make the automation successful. Some of the top challenges are script failures. And one of the major reasons for the script failure is when the object changes or the product evolves. Then the stability of the test scripts doesn't remain and the scripts starts failing. Moving on to the second challenge in the era, I mean, where people have access to multitude of browsers, their versions, with digital transformation. I mean, the landscape of testing has grown multitude, and designing a system that covers all the aspects becomes challenging sometimes. The third challenge is, you all are aware of that there are a variety of testing tools ranging from free to open source, and vendors are selling their automation tool, telling all the kind of features. Okay, so as a tester, as an automation tester, you have to make a conscious decision on which automation tool suits your product the most, or which automation tool satisfies both the technical and business expectation of your application. So it is a big challenge to choose the right tool set. The other challenges related to the automation are environmental challenges. Test data challenge is also one of the major challenge with the automation. Then with the technology shift, you have to keep on upskilling your skill set. Okay. The next one is very important, maintenance. So have you ever, thought about what if I don't maintain my scripts regularly? What will happen if I don't plan my maintenance activity properly? Okay, it will start creating a heap of failing scripts. Okay, and later that huge heap that will grow will cost payback, and your automation can completely fail if you don't plan out maintenance correctly during the life cycle. The last challenge that we're going to discuss about is flakiness. So this is really a pain area in which the object property changes, causing script failures. And automation is completely dependent on identifying the right locators, because you have to perform the operation on the object only. So if your script is not able to identify the object, you will not be able to move ahead and perform an action. So that's really a pain area in the automation. So these are some of the top challenges. Now, since the transformation is happening, and there's a demand for more and more frequent builds, so people are moving towards the agile methodology, and I mean, uh, the in agile the product keeps on evolving, and because of evolution the object property keeps on changing. So a tester has to invest time in correcting a script, which sometimes become an overhead. Okay, so I think I have talked quite a good number of challenges of automation. So there's a problem statement. What is the solution to this problem? Okay, so self-healing is one way in which this problem can be catered. And we will talk about what it is, how it is implemented, how it is different from the traditional approach, and its benefit. We are going to talk about all these pointers in the coming up slide. So before we move ahead, let's have a quick look at the statistics. So, uh, as a user, what happens when you visit a site? Okay, so if you don't get a good user experience, okay, as a human being, human being tendency is they either stop using that particular site or go and tell other people about their bad experience. So one of the statistics says that 90% of the complainers just stop using the site, and 13% of them go ahead and spread the word about their bad experience. The second statistics is says that no such element exception is the most observed error in automation. Coming on to the right side of the slide, these are some of the statistics from Sticky Mind, and it shows percentage-wise reasons of failure, wherein it shows that 33% of these script failures, 33%, which is a huge count, huge percentage. So 33% of the automation failures occurs due to flaky test cases. My test is okay. Test that fails even when the application is performing correctly. Application is performing uh, correctly, but my test is failing. And this is a tremendous pain. First, someone need to go and figure out why the test is failing, and it consumes lots of resources. So why does script fails? So let's have a quick look at the reasons for flakiness. So here in this table, we have quoted out the common reasons of test flakiness, and let's discuss them in a nutshell. So first reason for object flakiness is object property updates. I mean, there could be multiple reasons my object property get updated. It may be due to sprint changes, functionality changes, change in business flow, UI revamp, etc. Those who are involved in automation knows the pain which occurs dealing with the dynamic objects as well. So they also have a quite of a flaky nature. The third reason for flakiness is synchronization issues. So when page loads are either slow, fast, or timeout exception occurs, so it causes the object flakiness and the script fails. The third reason for flakiness is dependent test cases. So as a tester, I have designed a system in such a way that my scripts are tightly coupled, and one of the script failure causes failure for the other dependent scripts. So that's the wrong approach that I followed as a tester while designing or designing or logically arranging my test case. So that's the another reason for flakiness. The next reason which I'm going to talk about is another very important reason for the object flakiness, which is incorrect testing approach or framework. So wherein I mean various attributes of automation, which in fact we can also say various pillars of automation like reusability, maintainability, scalability, etc., are not taken into account while designing the automation framework. So with over the period of time, the scripts become flaky and starts failing. The last reason for the object flakiness is lack of time given to maintenance. Okay, and in fact, I would like to call it as a bad planning, because everything that is developed need maintenance at some point of time. Even if you build a building or apartment, you need to maintain it to elongate its life. So similarly, in software world also, whatever you are developing, you have to maintain it at some point of time. And when maintenance is not planned properly in development life cycle, be it waterfall or agile, I mean, then it keeps on growing, leading to more and more object flakiness and ultimately big failures. So maintenance is a very important, I would say, stage. Or while planning, you have to plan out the maintenance in a very correct way, so that you don't face problems when you utilize your automation. So these were some of the reasons of flakiness. Before we go into depth of self-healing, let's have a look at how the testing evolved over years. So this slides talk about evolution of testing. So I mean, you all are from the software world. Okay, so software programming has evolved over decades, and I think you agree with me that testing, which is an integral part of software development, has also gone through series of changes with the software programming development. And in 1980s, testing activity was considered as a measurement of quality, and testing life cycle was defined. Manual testing was started considering as the formal process. So before 1980s, it was never the formal process. In 1980 onwards, the testing was marked as the formal process, and a separate resources and the time was started giving for this particular activity. Moving on to next stage, the automation era in which we are still living. The automation era started from 90s, and with the advent of, I would say, new millennium, multiple new approaches surfaced, which gave a complete kind of makeover to the software testing. So in fact, many automation tools came up in the market, allowing you to write linear, modular, and scripts, and allowing some kind of reusability as well. Uh, with this, the expectation from the testing grew multifold, and frequent testing was demanded, giving birth to the agile testing. So, with testing evolving, the test tools also evolved. and they start supporting orchestration, handling more complex script, allowing multi-level testing, etc. Okay, uh, 2010 onwards, the era of continuous testing started, and the business dynamics start changing. Customer expected to see more immediate working model of the end product. So with this, it gave birth to continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous testing also got a new birth at that particular point of time. So, automation scripts became more dynamic. Scriptless automation came into existence. Context-driven testing started, taking into account the ways in which program will be used or are expected to be used by the real world. And going to the last stage where we are now in the artificial intelligence era. And believe me, this is present and this is going to be the future. Predictive self-learning, self-healing are present and future. It makes creation and maintenance of scripts easier, and it helps in reducing the operational cost as well. The systems and tools are developed intelligent enough to reduce human dependencies as much as possible. So now tools are taking care of what human beings were doing. So this was how, in a nutshell, how the testing evolved over years. Moving on to the topic of the day, which is self-healing. So, what happens? I mean, when we fall sick, our body, God has designed our body in such a way that our body tries to auto-heal, and after few days, we are fit. Okay, so in the similar way, self-healing refers to the process of recovery. In automation, it is healing of scripts by themselves instead of human being putting efforts and doing it. Okay, and we are calling it as automation within automation. There are two areas which you can basically heal. First one is synchronization. So when your script fails due to page load issues or timeout exceptions, you can use self healing. You can implement self healing by adaptive waits. Second area where you can self-heal your script is using the, locator headers. So when your script fails due to the object locator changes, you can implement self-healing by implementing dynamic object property update at the runtime. So these are the two areas where self-healing can be implemented, and we're going to talk about more on the locator value changes in today's session. So with this, I would like to hand over to Abhijit to cover up the remaining slides on self-healing.
Thanks, Preeti. Thanks for setting up the context, giving us a brief history about the testing, and introducing us to the self-healing. So before we jump into the actual implementation and working principle of a self-healing, let's understand the three core principles that we have learned so far. So to understand this, right, you can ask three simple questions: why, how, and what. So go with the first question: why? Why I want to implement the self-healing? Why my scripts are failing? Right? There's a quote: to become a stronger, you need to know your weaknesses, and flakiness is always a weakness of your automation script. We need to know our application really well, categorize the root cause that we have identified for the flakiness, group them together, and then give a thought that how can I implement or employ the self-healing concept. With that, you can also move to how. How can I fix it? How can I avoid the failures? With the recent pandemic situation, right? We have learned that prevention is better than cure. So why not implement that into the automation implementation? We should always focus on creating more robust automation than looking for cure at the later stage. Following the best practices and coding standard will help you to remove some of your scripting defects or scripting anomalies. But doing a code review with your peer or colleague will definitely identify the functional gap of it or the kind of locators that have been utilized. So you are kind of removing the false positive that you might see at the later stage. The third question that you should ask is what benefit I will get. So there's a quote from Johann Saal. It says that reward for work well done is opportunity to do more, right? So with the better execution results by implementing a self-healing, you have a less amount spent on the maintenance work. When you're spending less amount on spent maintenance work, you're focusing more on developing the new features or the new automation and covering larger areas of your application and ultimately giving more satisfaction and your team will become more happy, right? So these are some of the core principles that we would like to highlight for the self-healing. Let's look at the implementation and the other aspect of it. So let's compare the traditional versus self-healing portion. So when you execute your script, how it behaves it traditionally versus how self-healing can play in your regular automation. So it all starts with the UI refresh, where some of your object properties of your UI has been changed. So from your older UI, now you have the change in UI. The build is deployed, and now you are traditionally executing your script on the given build. That causes the failure because of the change in the object. That causes the locators are not able to identify the element in the Selenium world. Once we have the failures, automation developer then manually evaluates the failures, identifies the root cause analysis, goes through the change in object property, by inspecting it or through the object file. Then automation developer fix those locator values or change in the workflow or whatever the necessary step he has to make in, and then move to the next failure. And such way he will fix his automation test suite and follow the same approach throughout the SDLC lifecycle. Now let's look at how the self-healing will come into the play. So the change in property, object property, now you are executing your script. The moment it will see no such element exception, right? That's where the self-healing tool will identify what has been changed from the property value. It compares those change with the baseline. So you have, when you execute this script with the self-healing feature, it always creates the baseline for you to compare it with your future changes. So it makes that comparison in the object properties and then makes the intelligent decision on which locator strategy you should utilize to identify the same element, even though there's a change in the object property. Once your execution has been done, again, you need to evaluate whether that was intended change, whether that was a correct change. So you can authorize this change so that your now new baseline has been adapted to it. Let's look at the implementation point of view, how things can be. A simple flow of how it will be implemented is you have the object or the change in the object property. You have the test classes. This not major change that happens on the test classes side, since you are leveraging the page object model and leveraging the services that you have implemented at the form side. Right at the page object model, not much of a difference will happen. The major difference will happen where you are creating the object of your WebDriver. So instead of returning your traditional WebDriver object, you will use the object that's been created by the self-healing library. So out here we are referring to, or we have evaluated the Selenium as well as the Recheck Web. These are the two libraries that we'll be talking about. So let's look at the flow whenever the change has happened, right? So let's say my application will take a simple use case where my login button has been renamed to sign in. If you see here, my login was using the XPath of the text contents with login. So when I'm executing a test, right, a driver object will try to identify the login. It will not be able to locate that element, and that's where you will see a no such element exception that has been thrown. Then the self-healing driver will come into play, and then it will go to the self-healing engine, which will do the base comparison with the property change that what all things has been changed. For example, if only text has been changed, but there are the other properties like a class or any of the other attributes that has been the same way, then it will implement that kind of a locator strategy and then try to identify the same element. If it was able to identify that element, it will return you this successfully the web element object, and then your operation will be performed on it. So in this way, you have kind of a healed your object at the runtime, and then your execution proceed with it, right? So now I don't have that kind of a flakiness, or even though there is a change in the object properties, I have now healed that, and then my execution has been done. At the end of your execution, you can see the report where it can gives you the baseline comparison with the new object properties change. You can authorize the change, whether it was intended or it was not intended. If it was a correct change that was made by your self-healing engine, you can accept that change so that your baseline will taken this new values, and then going forward, these new values will be compared with the object properties that has been changed. So this is how the implementation been done for the self-healing libraries. So now with the self-healing, let's look at what kind of a benefits you will get along with it. So there are a few direct benefits and there are indirect benefits that you can get. So the direct benefits are like you are ready for the shift left approach with agile the changing in the requirement. UI constantly undergoes different changes. Using a self-healing, you are kind of a when you are executing your n-1 step, you are kind of a healing those changes at the runtime and then adopting that. So you are kind of running your scripts much better way in the shift left approach. Uh, that allows or helps you to increase your pass percentage. With increase in pass percentage, you can more focus on the most of your failures will be due to the functionality or with the other areas of it. So it helps you to heal those elements at the fly and then fix that there and there itself. With the increase in pass percentage, it reduces your overall maintenance time that you're going to be spending. So if you look in this way, even if the self-healing capability is able to heal your 50% of your object changes, it is the 50% of your less time that you'll be spending on the maintenance effort of it. So these are some of the direct benefits that you will get. Some of the indirect benefits that you can think of are like increase in automation execution and expedite feedback. So now because of I can heal, I have the healing capability, I can do the n-1 execution more frequently. Because I'm doing the n-1 execution more frequently, I can get the expedite feedback on my feature changes and my feature testing. So I'm validating it much better way. My packages are up to date, so I can always have my automation run at any point of time for any change that is happening. And the last indirect benefit that you can get is the feature proof. So this reuse test case, you can reuse this test case even though there are major technology changes that are happening or the updates that are happening. So let's look at the other side as well, right? Since this is not something that will work for all the scenarios, right? So this is not the silver bullet that can solve all your problems at a given point of time. These are some of the observations that we learn while implementing this in our organization. The text execution time increases. So if you have a smaller test bed, that doesn't count much. But if you are having a larger test bed in thousand and 10,000 kind of a test bed, then you will see the change in the overall your execution time. But hey, still saving my maintenance effort, right? I don't have to be attentive while my execution is happening. So that is still kind of a pro for me. Probability of false positive at the early stage. So when these AIML algorithms are learning about your application, learning about the locators that we have utilized, you might get false positive, and that's why you get the authority when the reports have been published to accept that change or decline whether it was intended or not. Code is not updated after healing, so you have to rely on the additional plugins to make that the test maintenance, if at all there are any change in the locator side of it. But this will help you to make the changes in the locators itself. If there are any workflow changes or if there are any additional or new things that are being introduced, that code change will not happen with this. And there are certain areas where we saw that it cannot heal the single element object out of list. So if you have a drop down or if you have a list list box elements, right? If you want to heal one of the element for which the text has been changed, that is not feasible as of now. And the another thing that we have observed is most of our current open source healing libraries that we talked about, Selenium as well as the Recheck Web, it supports only the Java implementation as of now. We couldn't came across any of the libraries that support the C# based implementation. If you are using a C# based implementation, it's still something like a gray area that we have to rely on the additional or human maintenance effort on top of. So these are some of the reference points from which we have learned about the self-healing, and the Selenium as well as the Recheck are both the open source library tools that you can leverage about it. So that's all from our side, right? So thank you for listening to us. When next time you're executing your scripts, right? Don't be someone other than Rancho from Three Idiots, who will be doing like all is well. Uh, Ayla, my script has been failed, right? So instead of that, become Funsuk Wangru. Take this nugget, go back to your project, think about it, how you can implement this, and reduce your overall maintenance effort. Self-healing is automation within automation, and it's definitely a needed therapy as of now or in the given time for your first step. So we are open for questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit, and thank you, Preeti. It was a wonderful session, as lots of hearts and lot of claps are pouring in. And I would request Dr. Nandakumar now to take on with the question answers.
Thank you, Vidhi, and thanks Preeti and team for doing the wonderful presentation on self-healing. There are a couple of questions, interesting questions floating around. The first question goes out is, can you mention some of the open source tools of self-healing? This is from Scrutish.
Yes.
So we already mentioned in our discussion, right? We are talking on tools, open source tools, Selenium as well as Recheck Web. Both are open source, and you can utilize that for your healing of your challenges.
There is also a question on CI/CD. In a CI/CD, how can the self-healing be applied in our automation repository? Does the self-healing can produce false positive issues as well? That's a good one.
Yeah, so you can integrate your execution even with the CI/CD portion of it. These libraries have a dedicated server or mechanism in which it can heal your scripts at, even though you're executing things in unattended mode. And as we talked about in some of the cons that we have observed, it does produce a false result or false positive at times, and that's why we suggest that you kind of authorize the change that has been made by this library.
Also, I mean, I answered that question in the chat box. Also, imagine, I mean, if you are able to fix 50%, okay, you are reducing your 50% maintenance efforts, and that's a big hit. If you are saving some time, I mean, and you can invest that save time somewhere else.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Machine cannot learn everything. There should be something that you have to teach them. Yeah, there is also some more interesting question. Can you apply self-healing to implement in API testing? Have you tried it, or have you experienced something on that?
So as of now, the libraries that we talked about that supports the Selenium or web implementation, we haven't really tried it on the API side of it. I mean, there are different techniques that you can leverage to tackle some of the problems or the contracts that has been changed in the API side of it. But the libraries that we mentioned in this, the POC that we have done so far, was more focused on the web side.
There is also some more question from Harmony and Pratijit. Can self-healing be applied only to the locator-related failures, or other failures also? Do you have few examples?
So there are two ways that you can apply the self-healing, and Preeti talked about while introducing it, right? So two major causes are the locator change in the locators, and the second one is the synchronization, right? So for if your application is behaving a bit slow today, right, you should be able to adopt or increase your wait time at the runtime, looking at what kind of a timeout exception has been made. So that's the terminology that has been utilized is the adaptive wait. So you can implement those adaptive waits and look into the timeout exception and increase your timeouts or the wait time for a given locator runtime by increasing it to some percentage, and that way again retrying and implementing a retry mechanism.
There is also more deep dive questions. How do you predict the path of the object if has changed? And in database, don't contain them. So specifically, they are saying, how do you predict the path of the change? And if you don't have them in your database and so on.
So if it is not available in baseline, it cannot heal it, right? Because it doesn't know what kind of a properties are lying there. So that's something that you have to adopt. So that might be something that will fail if something you have used the wrong locator or topic, and then you have to when the element of properties are not there, it will learn from it and then add those properties into the baseline. And whenever you run it next time, it will then heal that product as per the new changes that are made.
Okay, there are few more questions on a very high level. Let me throw the high level questions, then we'll go a little more to the deeper.
Sure.
Can you please share me the ROI of your experience in this case? How much was the effort involved and how much you really earn and so on? So the question is on how much effort you spent versus how much effort you gained, ROI.
Sure. So we were in the learning phase when we started looking into this, right? And we have just moved into implementation phase, right? We tested both the libraries with the multiple HTML technologies, like a simple regular HTML, Angular JS, as well as the React JS this thing, and it was able to heal that in pretty decent way. We haven't yet started with the actual implementation. That's a work in progress. So I don't have the exact figure of the ROI that has been saved because of this, because it completely depends on how much amount of your locators has been changed, right? If you have too much change in the locator side of it, if your UI is going in a continuous revamp kind of a mode, you will get benefited more in that area. But if you have a pretty steady application, right, where the locator changes are pretty minimal, or they are happening at one or two occurrences, you might not get that kind of a benefit in those kind of implementations. And that's why we said, like, one of the first principles that we mentioned or we talked about, that you have to understand your application, what kind of errors you are getting. So you need to categorize them and then think about it whether you can apply the self-healing. Does self-healing make sense in terms of my failures? If it is, then only adopt it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and work on your regular maintenance.
Will it heal the test data based error? Have you tried it test data based error? Okay. I also thought that test data is not the one healing can help with. Helium supports only Java based projects. Any alternative? And she has, I think you already answered, but you have any quick liner for that?
No, we at least didn't came across for any libraries that are available for C#. We're also looking for that one. So if you have read or gone through some of the libraries, do let us know. We'd like to learn from you as well.
Yes.
That's a good one, because I know hunting on to the open source for all languages is also a big journey and trouble, where we will not be able to complete it, because today even testing is becoming a multi-heterogenic language world and so on and so forth. We have more time, or we are almost done with the time?
Almost done with the time. We have 3 minutes if you want to ask any question. Otherwise, you can, all the audiences can meet them in the lounge.
Sure.
Because I see some of them asking it to show the self-healing
Okay,
architecture.
you can
Those,
take one more question. I think 3 minutes is still there. So you can take one more question.
can you put some more lines on what is your self-healing architecture? Because someone is saying that can be moved to the slide of star architecture and so on. So any lines about how was the architecture designed on self-healing?
So both the libraries that we mentioned, right, have different kind of approach on doing the self-healing. Right. So Selenium has its own way of going through the tree mechanism and then identifying the right set of locators for a given element, and as well as the Recheck Web has a different approach where it stores that information and then go through the XML file. So it stores the information in XML format, so it reads that object, and then it will apply the self-healing. So both has a different architecture. So there is no common approach that has been utilized. Concept is common, but implementation is different in the both cases.
Okay. I think, Vidhi, I think this is the last question, so please take your stage. I give back your stage, and again, thanks for Abhijit and team. It was a nice session.
Thanks
Thank
all
you.
three of you for your time, and it was really valuable session. Thank you so much.